My name is Brittany Chevalier McIntyre, and I'm the executive editor at Luxe Interiors and Design magazine. Thanks for tuning in to Collab Lab with supermodel turned entrepreneur Miranda Kerr on Design TV. Today, we will discuss Miranda's design background and the new Miranda Kerr home collection with Universal Furniture entitled Love, Joy, Bliss. While Miranda needs no introduction, she is best known as one of the world's most influential and respected models. And after 2 decades in the fashion world, Miranda transitioned from the runway to the business world as founder and CEO of Cora Organics, a certified organic skincare line sold worldwide. Not a stranger to the design world, Miranda also creates a range of fine china and giftware for Royal Albert and has designed collaborations with Swarovski and Mother Denim. In addition to running her own company, Miranda supports various causes related to women, children, health, the environment, and she still finds time for her interior design passion. Miranda, it's an honor to have you on Design TV. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you. What a lovely introduction.
Nothing less for a lovely individual. So before we discuss your new line with Universal, which I must say is quite beautiful, I'd love to know more about your design background. You have years of experience under your belt. So what ultimately inspired you to make the transition from model to CEO of your own skincare line and then to designer?
So I've been in the industry since I started modeling when I was 13, and then I never really took it seriously till I was 18. And then, you know, my career was super busy, traveling around the world, 2 different countries a week. And I was exposed to obviously a lot of creativity being in the fashion industry, and also a lot of different cultures and countries, and I found it all very inspiring to see the way that different people live all around the world. And so I've been doing different collaborations. You know, one of my first collaborations I did was design the teacups, as you were saying, with Royal Albert. And when they approached me, they originally approached me to design like glassware and stemware with them, and I was like, I'd really love to design teacups because it's something that's so close to my heart. With my grandmother growing up, I grew up in this little country town in Australia, and her prized possession was her teacups, and she had them in a beautiful cabinet with the glass windows, and she would put her teacups in there, and she had a couple on top of her piano as well that she had placed. Like, it was interesting because they were really something that meant so much to her. And so we would get them out for special occasions and whatnot. And it was quite imprinted in me because I spent a lot of time, most of my time really, with my grandmother growing up. And so when the opportunity was there for me to design with Royal Albert, I was like blown away and so excited and very particular about the way I wanted things to be. I wanted the palette to be consist of like peonies and butterflies, and because peonies are one of my favorite flowers, and I just love the delicate nature of the peonies. And the whole collection itself is around uplifting whoever comes into contact with the cup. So for instance, like this one is the friendship collection, because there's different collections with the teacup. So that was like my first experience with designing. And then I went on to do a collaboration designing a capsule collection of jeans with Mother Denim. And then I also designed jewelry with Swarovski. I also, when it comes to my own skincare company, like going back to that, when I first decided to start my own skincare company, it's fully self-funded. And so I was doing a lot of the design work, a lot of, you know, everything from the packaging to even the words on the back of the packaging, it all just came from me because it was my company, and it was just what, you know, what you do when you have your own company. You just kind of have to be like over on top of everything, right? But the reason I started Cora Organics, so shifting to that as opposed to the design part of things, is because I was traveling around the world, basically trying so many different skincare every day and I knew what worked well underneath makeup and whatnot. But what surprised me is that there was that the beauty industry was unregulated. So when you look at the back of the ingredients and you see maybe a product might claim to be natural, but then you'll see products in there, ingredients in there that aren't natural. So maybe they'll have one natural ingredient or one organic ingredient, but then underneath there's a whole list of like a bunch of chemicals. And then there was this book that I started reading called The Chemical Maze, and we started reading that because my mom got sick with cancer in her spleen, and we were reading this book about all the different additives and whatnot that are found in like household goods, whether it be cleaning products, hair care, shampoos, I mean, face products, everything. And we were super surprised to see the chemicals that are in these products and what the actual purpose of that is and how carcinogenic it can be in large doses. So long story short, I was talking to a friend of mine saying, this is crazy. How come no one has actually made a true certified organic skincare brand? Because our skin is our largest organ, and what we put on our skin sinks in. And this is something that we can control because we can't control the pollution and everything outside. We can't control a lot of things, but one thing we can control is what we ingest and what we put on our body and on our skin. And so she said, why don't you talk to a friend of mine? And her friend was making organic essential oils in Australia. And I spoke to her and she put me in contact with an organic chemist who works, you know, in Australia. I spoke with them. I sat down and I said, I know it's crazy, but I'd love to develop a certified organic skincare range. I want the key ingredient to be noni. That's a whole nother story, but I've been drinking noni since I was about 13. And I really feel like it helped me so much, both internally and also externally when I applied it on my skin. It helped with sunburn, pimples, because it's antimicrobial and also anti-inflammatory. And it's a superfood, superfruit that contains over 100 vitamins and minerals. And I wanted that to be the key ingredient across the whole range. And that was interesting because it's quite a pungent fruit. So we had to figure out a way to freeze dry it so that you lock in the nutrients. It's just as effective, but it doesn't have the smelly, the smell that the actual fruit has. They call it the cheese fruit, and it's been around for thousands of years, helping a lot of people with different ailments. And so, yeah, I started Cora. The idea was back in 2006, and then I launched 2009 in Australia. And now we're sold in over 30 countries, and I'm still own 95% of the company. I had a 5% investor from the beginning, and you know, it's a lot of work when you have your own company, but it's also something that when you are passionate about something, it doesn't feel like work. And so when Universal came and said, would you be interested in designing, you know, a collection with us? I said, yes, but I really, like, if I'm going to do this, I want to give it my whole heart, because whatever I do, I just give so much to it. And so I came to our first meeting with the whole vision board and idea of what I wanted the collection to be. And they were like, wow, no one's actually come to us like this before, so prepared. And I was like, well, my mother always taught me, if you're going to do something, do it properly or don't do it at all. And so they were super interested, and it evolved from there. And that was like such a long-winded answer, but there were so many questions in that one question.
Absolutely. So moving back a little bit with the creation of Cora Organics, I understand how intention, care, and quality, as you were saying, are so important to you. So tell me, was this a similar equation when it came to designing this collection with Universal Furniture?
Yeah, so the whole collection from the beginning, I wanted the elements of love, joy, bliss incorporated into the furniture because I believe that everything, we're all energetic beings, and there's so many different studies out there on that, which is, you know, one of the reasons why I really believe in intentions, and I also feel like there are different ways to infuse that into what you are doing. So originally I wanted the love collection to be for the bedroom and joy to be for the dining area space and like the kitchen, and then bliss to be for the living areas. But then I realized we can infuse love, joy, bliss throughout like our whole home. And so that's why it's the love, joy, bliss collection. But in the beginning, I was quite specific. And then I realized as we continued along, a lot of the pieces can be interchangeable. So they don't necessarily have to fit like just in your living room. You can mix and match the different rooms.
You really dove in headfirst from the beginning of this collaboration. You were prepared with mood boards, with swatches during the pitching process, and you were extremely involved in every aspect of production. So as a hands-on collaborator with this very distinct vision, what was that initial inspiration when you got started? And did it eventually evolve during the process?
It was, yes. So my original inspiration was definitely similar to what the execution is, like the neutral palettes, the tactile nature of the different fabrics. Even though they're neutral palettes, you have like the wood grain, and then you have the white lacquer, and then you have the taupe, and then you have the beautiful glass with like little pops of color here and there, and then the geometrical shapes that are for me kind of infusing the crystal element into the collection as well, because I am a big believer in crystals. My whole range of Cora Organics, every ingredient is touched upon rose quartz in the manufacturing process, and it has been since day one. And it's interesting to me because now it's becoming, you know, clean beauty, and also the use of crystals are becoming more talked about and appreciated. And anyway, it's something that I, as I said, started with my company like back then, and now to infuse that that symbolism of the crystals throughout a lot of the geometric shapes that I created was just so fun to see that come to life, because it adds another element of, like, for me, making it feel more special or more interesting, because you might first look at a piece in a room and you don't see every detail, and then you're like, oh wow, like that, you see a little bit more the closer you look at it, like whether it be, you know, the knobs or the shape underneath.
There are almost layers of detail that you're
Yeah,
constantly discovering.
yeah.
Yeah, oh, it's beautiful. So, and now more than ever, people are spending a lot of time at home. I know your vision was to translate your ideals of tranquility, authenticity, and beauty into timeless yet practical home furnishings. And I feel like it's almost as if you were looking into the future when designing this collection and understanding that people would want comfort and sanctuary during this period of uncertainty. How do these ideals touch upon your life and your own home aesthetic?
Yeah, I really have been quite a homebody my whole life, and I love my space to feel nurturing, and I love to feel inspired by my space at home as well. And so translating that into the pieces and creating that feeling when people have these pieces in their own home is something that I'm very excited about, and I'm excited for other people to have that experience, because for me, I'm a very empathetic person, a very like I'm quite sensory and tactile, and so being able to incorporate that into my designs was something that I feel like helpful when I feel like it's nice and helpful when I come home and I get to sit on the sofa, and I love the tactile of how it feels under my skin, and I get to see the beautiful mother of pearl inlay on the table. It's like a sensory experience, and a very, as I said, nurturing, very calming experience. So I'm happy that I get to hopefully inspire that in other people's homes that have incorporated my collection into their homes. And the pieces themselves are very interchangeable with what other people have in their home. So it's not like you need to just go and decorate your whole house with the Miranda Co collection, but you're more than welcome to. But the pieces work very well because they are neutral, they do work very well with other pieces people have in their homes.
Absolutely. So now we're going to take a look at some specifics from the collection, starting with the Love, Joy, Bliss round dining table, which I know it's one of your favorites. The glass top allows you to look down and see this stunning geometric base. So was there something specific that inspired this piece? And tell me, why is it one of your favorites?
I love the fact that it's quite a large workable table, but it also fits in smaller spaces. So it can hold a room that's like it has a lot more space, or it can hold its own when it's in a smaller space. So for example, I have it now in a little kitchen nook, a little breakfast nook in my home here in Malibu. And the whole inspiration behind it was the geometric shape underneath that was resembles the crystal shape and form. And I love the gold detail, because to me it brings a sense of timelessness and elegance, and the beautiful glass table on the top, the combination of the two just feels very, I love the way that the air moves through it. It feels very light, and I love the way that the light literally moves through it. It feels like you can put that table in many different rooms and it would work. Like it could work in Paris, it can work in my Malibu house, it could work in my country house. It just feels a very workable table. It's quite versatile. And the whole collection, I wanted to be also timeless and not date. So I love, like, when I decorate my homes, that I feel like those pieces are going to last like forever. Like, I'm not really into trends at all. I really like to just find pieces that are timeless and then can hopefully like maybe be passed down to like my kids and whatnot. So that was also a piece that I feel could translate and stand the test of time very well.
Yeah, looking at your collection as a whole, one thing that you were saying that is very clear is versatility. Yes. The pieces can really live anywhere in the home and anywhere in the world, and they can be put together or separate alone and mixed with other furnishings. For example, the runway console, it can be used in the living room, the dining room, the entryway. So please tell me more about this piece and the design of the gem-like doors.
I really was so specific with the design of these doors, and I wanted it to be like 3-dimensional. And I remember drawing it for the team and just saying, like, I want it to feel like a jewel box. Mm-hmm. And I really want that lacquer finish, the taupe lacquer finish, to really be a piece that people can use, as you said, like in the runway in their home, or also to be used in the dining room if you want to put like, you could put plates and cups and everything in there, or you could put it in your living room and have like games and things for the kids. So I love that piece. I feel like it feels very timeless. It feels very luxe. It feels very, I feel inspired when I look at that piece. I just feel like the clean lines, there's something about like the clean lines and the, you know, the legs, the detail in the legs, it just feels elegant.
I also love the color. I think that it's quite striking and beautiful.
Yes, it is. The color, that beautiful taupe color, is like a very, it's interesting because I think when sometimes people look online, it doesn't translate as what it is in person. And one thing I would say is you will not be disappointed when you buy any of the pieces and actually get them and see them, you know, in the real physical space. You'll see so much more detail and you will be over the moon excited, because in person, these pieces just feel so good. And I'm not being biased. Like, even if someone else had created this, I'd be like, wow, this is, you know, this is a great piece, and these are great pieces that just come to life when you put them in your home, as opposed to just seeing them on a screen. Like, it's sometimes hard to buy from a screen, is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. No, the pieces are striking. They're really beautiful. So moving into the living room, while the Brentwood chair's overall silhouette and tapered legs make it so aesthetically pleasing, it also looks so extremely comfortable. Can you vouch for that and say it's extremely comfortable?
Yeah, it's such a comfortable chair. I have, and also quite versatile. I was so obsessed with that chair and the comfort and the simplicity of it that I have one in my bedroom and one in the living room just over here behind me. It's a great chair to just kind of snuggle up and read a book in, and or just like lay back at the end of the day. This one in particular, I can sit here and watch the sunset whilst like kind of laying back, having a cup of tea. It's just a very cozy experience. It's, you know, it's quite deep. The depth of the chair is like, so it feels, and then with the ottoman, it just feels so cozy and relaxing. And my little ones jump up on there with me as well.
And it's also upholstered in a stain-resistant fabric, which is wonderful for children.
Yes, it is. And trust me, I have experienced some spills, and this is a very, very good, durable fabric, because people think, oh no, whites, creams, not with the kids. It's actually amazing when you have this stainless free fabric that really just, my son the other day spilt like his sippy cup on there, and I was like, ah, and I ran and got a towel, and it just literally just like wiped directly off. I was like, wow, this is amazing.
I'm sure with kids, as a mother, you created this collection to also be livable and to also be family friendly. So that's really important.
Super important, because I mean, I have 3 boys. I have a 2-year-old, 11-month-old, and a 9-year-old. And so they're completely in different stages. Like, one's breastfeeding, the other one's, my 2-year-old is like jumping up and down on the sofa with his sippy cup, and then my 9-year-old's like there, and I'm like, take your shoes off inside please, and he's got his feet up on the sofa, and I'm just like, but these durable fabrics are really so complementary to a family lifestyle, and they're really something that I'm actually quite impressed with. So
I have an 11-month-old, so I know how it is for sure. So last but certainly not least, the bedroom. I love how you chose to use a white lacquer finish for the Malibu bed. To you, what was the most important aspect when creating furnishings for the most calming, soothing room in the home?
My bedroom is a place that I really feel needs to just be completely soothing and rebalancing and like very harmonious, because I'm, you know, just like everyone else, working like back to back running around, getting the kids to bed, all of that stuff. When I get into my bedroom, it needs to feel super rebalancing and harmonious, and like my little cave in a way, where I can go and recharge with my husband and wake up in the morning and do it all over again. So I wanted to also bring about the different tactiles, which is why with the Malibu bed, which is probably my favorite, I wanted specifically, I drew the details of which way I wanted the wood to go, and the different layering elements of that white lacquered bed, to me feels like it brings about a really interesting bed head that's subtle, that's not too overwhelming or overpowering for your space where you need to kind of recharge and like relax. So it's enough detail to be interesting, but not too much detail to be stimulating. Because at home, you know, when we go to bed, it's really important to, you know, I have a whole wind down routine where I like put my phone on airplane mode and have my crystals in my room, and it's really important. And I've had both of my homes feng shuied, and it's really important for that space in your bedroom to just be very nurturing. And I feel like that bed to me feels like strong, and it feels, you know, like the beautiful detail. It makes me, I mean, it feels super cozy, but at the same time, like tranquil. So, I mean, I love that bed.
It's really beautiful. It's one of my favorite pieces.
Thanks.
Miranda, thank you so much for joining us today on Collab Lab. And thank you to our viewers for tuning into DesignTV. You can learn more about Miranda and her furniture collection, as well as her skincare line, Cora Organics, at mirandakerr.com. My name is Brittany Chevalier McIntyre. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Hey design fans and friends. Today we're talking health and wellness with our good friends at ZGF, who recently completed a cutting-edge medical research lab for the Lundquist Institute for Biomedical Innovation in Los Angeles. I am super delighted to introduce you to Braulio Baptista, partner at ZGF and good friend, who is going to take us on a design tour of this stunning project and hear about the Institute, who right now are fighting for our health as we battle COVID-19. Hi, Braulio, how are you?
Hi, Cindy, I'm well, how are you?
I'm as great as can be expected. I'm so happy to see you. Braulio, when you were working on this project, did you ever in a million years think that this institute would be at the cutting edge of something that we desperately need right now?
I didn't, because no one could have expected the world being in the situation that it is right now. But it's not surprising to me because they have been an institute focusing on biomedical research for several decades. And even though they've been housed in barracks from the 40s, they've been able to come up with some medical advances that have impacted the world of healthcare worldwide.
You were telling me there's sort of a fun fact about the Lundquist Institute.
Yes. The Lundquist Institute is a campus within a campus. The larger super block includes the Harbor UCLA Medical Hospital, which is in a historically sort of rough part of Los Angeles. And so it was a hospital that saw a lot of trauma cases, the ER. And so the doctors that worked in the hospital also work in the institute. And I forget the name of the doctor principal investigator who said, well, if we were able to provide care at the scene of an incident to these individuals, maybe they would have a higher rate of survival. And so this was decades ago where at LA Biomed, they came up with the concept of paramedics, which is used all across the globe today.
Wow, amazing. That's really amazing. And then now we're gonna go through this project, but at the same time, they're right now I understand they're in a phase 3 trial shot for, battling COVID.
Yeah, they jumped on that right away. The building is really helping them do that because part of the goal, the mission of the building was to provide a multidisciplinary environment that allows them to work on real life solutions to real life problems.
Right.
So it involves bringing together computationalists that are looking at the DNA of the virus and running, all that data through the computer. It requires also regular experimentalist that are working in a wet lab environment. So the building is meant to bring all those people under one roof and empower that multidisciplinary environment to allow them to come about these discoveries that are so needed today.
Yeah, I mean, Braulio, could you imagine, first of all, we know the power of good design, right? And being in a space like that, all those researchers, all those great minds, could you imagine if that was the place that ended up figuring out the vaccine? That would be unbelievable, right?
That would be unbelievable. What gets me out of bed in the morning, Cindy, is the idea that through my work, I'm able to make a dent in the world in a positive way, and to imagine that in a facility that I had designed,
Right.
something like that could happen is just really humbling and so satisfying.
I know. I got really, really excited. Of course, we've seen this project and it is incredible. And then now to tie it into our life right now, it gives me chills, actually. And as you said, it had been sort of like a World War II barracks campus. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the barracks, I don't know, actually, I don't recall the reason why the barracks were there to begin with, but they were right next to the hospital.
Right.
The doctors at the hospital wanted some room to do some research, some medical research, and so the LA Biomed campus started that way. They had problems with raccoon infestations and feral cats, and,
Oh my God.
and to walk through that campus and think about all the things that they were working on. They're working on a sickle cell, a cure to sickle cell. They were able to develop these eye drops that help prevent eye infections in newborns, which is being used all over Africa. And so I hope that with new, state-of-the-art, cutting-edge facilities,
Right.
they can take that to an even greater level and continue their legacy of coming up with medical advances that impact lives all throughout the globe. So
I'm sure they will, and we're like, God bless them. Honestly, God bless them. Okay,
absolutely.
so let's talk about design, because that's what we love so much, right? First of all, is this the first like real designed, cutting edge design building that they have on this campus?
Pretty much. They have built some buildings since the barracks. But those are actually now older buildings, and none to the scale of what we were able to do, for them. They like the building so much that they just asked us to do a replica of the building, mirroring it across the sort of a new drive that's going to come down from Carson Boulevard. It will be the main approach, and create a new sort of quad that will further impact a sense of campus and a sense of community to that area, which is so needed.
That's so funny, because I was thinking there had to be more, because in the notes you sent, it said, lab 1, the building 1. So I'm like, okay, so that means there's a 2 coming up, exactly. which is fantastic. Okay, so let's get some stats going. It's a 4-story building. How big is it, and how big is the campus?
It's not a big campus, and we just went through together with them, a sort of a master plan exercise, and there's room for about 4 similarly sized research buildings like the one we just did for them. And And so it's not that big of a campus. They're not a huge institute, but they have incredible talent there, as we talked about, given their history.
Yeah.
And so for all intents and purposes, it is sort of a smallish lab building. Our lab projects tend to be much bigger than that. It's only a 20,000 or so square foot floor plate. And the floor plate is designed around the concept of lab neighborhoods, where instead of the typically laminated, where you have a bank of open labs and then a bank of support spaces and then a bank of offices that are sort of laminated, the neighborhood plan is sort of taking all of that, cutting it up in sections, sort of turning them 90 degrees, and then creating these neighborhoods that have a greater sense of human scale. They're still connected by an internal sort of functional corridor. So it allows, as research teams grow and shrink, for people to spill over onto another side and still feel connected. But the best thing about it is that we put the enclosed offices on the perimeter across from the inherently opaque spaces, which is the support spaces. And that way, the lab environment, which is internal, looks through an open office area towards direct daylight and the views of the outside, which greatly humanizes that space. And that's important given the number of hours that those researchers are spending in that environment.
Right, exactly. Light. I mean, who would have thunk, right? That, light.
All about light.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So that's amazing, and I'm sure they appreciate it so much. I mean, when I see the images, when you'll take us through, but it's very residential, very hospitality and feeling, which is so right on the money these days. In fact, all the amenity spaces, I don't know, Braulio, what do you think? The amenity spaces sort of remind me of what we're talking about right now for workplace. Like, are the new workplace spaces more like what we would usually call the amenity spaces?
That's true. We work on a lot of healthcare projects. We work on with a lot of higher ed in institutions and all their institutions on these environments where the main focus is the function, right?
Right.
But I'd like to talk about the idea of purpose, because purpose involves both functional accommodation and human accommodation, because we need to be happy in the environments that we're going to carry out our work, and we need to be inspired. And so that's what the real promise of design is that we are inspired every day we're going to that environment, and that environment also helps us connect with one another.
Right.
Because this idea of cross-disciplinary research, the idea that the spark for a new medical cutting-edge medical advancement could happen inside of an elevator or by the water cooler. Those are the kinds of moments that we want to harness, thinking about the day in the life of those people and how the environment can accommodate both the larger intended function, but also sort of these micro movements that are important to that as well.
Right, exactly. And we need that so much these days, right?
Yeah. And we also try to avoid doing that in an institutional look, because people want to come to an environment that they feel a sense of place, which is providing them a sense of belonging, providing them a sense of home. So it's about light, it's about connection to nature. And at the Lundquist Institute, we try to do that, trying to keep sort of a timeless overall aesthetic. And if you notice in the photos, the base building is very simple. We used, a lot of light. The idea is to sort of have a rich palette of materials, but to have a timeless canvas that is about reflecting light, and about, as furnishings and, fixtures change, the space would still remain up to date, throughout, the generations that the building will be serving its purpose. And so we were able to add richness through the use of color by deploying the FF&E in that sort of strategy. And so the building is somewhat grouped by sort of these color environments. So there's a little bit of a wayfinding thing going on with the ground floor being these tones of teal and turquoise. And then as you rise up the building, it sort of begins to attain tones of purple. The idea was to contrast both the lighter finishes and the wood finishes with something that was more in that family of sort of blues. And then there's like sort of deep cobalt blues up near the sky on the 4th floor in the executive suite. And so there's this idea of wayfinding, this idea of connecting to nature, the greener tones of the teal and the aqua on the ground floor help to bring in the landscaped areas from the outside into the building and to reinforce that connection to nature, which is so important in creating that sense of place that I was alluding to. And that was it. It's a simple palette that's about thinking about the day-to-day life of people using the spaces and thinking about the longevity of that space.
Right. I mean, by the way, it's very edited. I love that. You're saying the use of teal. By the way, teal could go wrong really easily. It's gorgeous. It is gorgeous. And these backdrops also of concrete. You have this great graphic downstairs.
Yeah.
Is it metal? Explain that.
It's actually a metallic acrylic product. But we have a graphics team that has been working with our design teams on developing environmental graphics for many of our projects. It kind of started with some of our athletics work.
Right.
I'm not sure if you ever saw.
Yes, I have, and you've won many awards.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Oh my God, it's like unbelievable that work is really like stellar. Right.
Yeah. And so the some of the it's awesome to be a designer at ZGF because I get to work on so many different project types and things cross-pollinate. And I think one project makes another one better. Right. Thinking about, we did a courthouse in San Jose and we were thinking about, how people will come to a courthouse very much like in a hospital in a situation of stress. So thinking about how the environment helps to create a calming effect on people, helps to de-stress. So really thinking about, the idea of human accommodation, again, going back to the notion of purpose. Right. And so that graphic was something that, I always had envisioned for that big concrete wall, which by the way, is a major structural element of the building, is a sheer wall that tracks all the way down to the ground floor. And at the ground floor, there's this idea that you could interpret it as molecules connected. Right. Definitely. But it's really about this new paradigm of research that's about bringing different disparate points that were before isolated disciplines into that multidisciplinary environment and empowering a new paradigm of research that we need.
It's nice that it has like a double meaning, right?
Yeah.
Tell me about that beautiful turn in the building.
Yes. So lab buildings are buildings that want to be very rationally laid out. Everything is modular. Everything is based on efficiency of, space use. There's cost recovery things that are related to how much of the square footage is actually used in those buildings. But we always try to figure out how does a building attain an individual architectural signature without compromising its function. And so the building, when you look at it in plan, is a simple bar. Mm-hmm. And then there are a couple of moves that are like tangents that are coming off. And I was inspired by the idea that sometimes a scientific discovery can be made by a tangent that someone goes on. Mm-hmm. So it's not about just following that line from A to B or from A to Z, if you will, in order to find something new. And so that inflection in the form really happens on the south end and on the north end. And then as you track those angles that peel away to the top, the mechanical penthouse, which is not impacting the lab modules below, takes on that same angle, and the building actually looks like there's a lot more movement. The form appears a lot more dynamic than it really is in plan.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's so stunning. And I'm really happy it's going to have its sister or brother.
Yeah.
All right. So check
it's the ultimate compliment, right? It's like a client can say, "Yeah, we like your building," but this one said, "We like your building so much, we want another one."
Right. I love that. Yeah, it is a big compliment for sure. Okay, so let's talk about this. So it's 4 stories. So take us through the different floors. So what's on the first floor?
So the first floor are meeting and conference functions. There's also a little cafe as well. The idea for that was to allow the building to be a magnet for others that work elsewhere on the campus. So there's a large multi-purpose room. It was sized for between 150 to 200 seats. There are a couple of other sort of breakout spaces, a boardroom down there as well, the cafe. And then there's loading functions and sort of research support functions like freezer farm and storage sort of in the back.
Mm-hmm. And is there education that's happening
yeah,
quite often? Yeah.
Absolutely. So the idea then is to provide these spaces that are wrapping around those meeting spaces, providing access also to the vertical circulation of the building that are an extension of the outside environment. So this idea, given that we're in California, of inside outside and exposing that activity to others that are working by on the campus is really what that campus needed, because there was a security issue for many years. And so having more eyes, having more transparency between the interiors of the building and the outside helps to create that environment that feels safe and that also creates that palpable sense of place that we were looking for. Right.
And I've seen many a lab in my day where there would be certain spaces that would look good, and then you'd go up to the lab and it would just, and in this case, it's just light and bright as you head all the way up, right? As you said. So let's go to, so the second floor, take us.
Yeah, so the second floor is the workhorse research floor. And as I mentioned before, it was designed based on these neighborhood principles, in which allows for these zones, these open zones that create better daylight penetration through the office all the way into the lab environment. I'm not sure if you know this, but you cannot have in a lab environment by code any kind of food or drink at all. Mm-hmm. And so that little open area outside, the write-up area, is where folks that are working at their lab bench can take a break and have a drink of water or have a soda or whatever. So that glass wall that divides that area is not only allowing for that daylight penetration into the lab environment, but also allows those folks to maintain a line of sight to their lab bench. So it's both functional and also creating, that better quality of the environment that I was talking about.
Yeah. Oh my God, I had no idea. Can you imagine us? We're always, carrying a coffee, a water. They can't. So
yeah,
really, God bless them. All right. So that's the second floor. Let's head to the third.
The third floor is really interesting because David Meyer, the director of the Lundquist Institute, had a vision for this incubator floor in which biomedical startups could come and rent space as small as a knee hole in a lab bench, but also be able to, throughout the life of their research enterprise and potential product or medical development, be able to grow within the space. So we provided labs of different sizes so that as they become a group and they have greater need for privacy, they could stay within that environment. And again, going back to the idea of breaking down the disciplines, the idea of having incubees in the building further expands the idea of breaking down the disciplines so that the Lundquist Institute principal investigators can have a chance to interact with some of these startups and the folks in those enterprises.
That's amazing and really, really smart, by the way. It doesn't look like there is research on the top floor. So that's the fourth, right?
There is research on the top floor. The top floor is dry lab, and dry lab essentially looks like office. Dry lab is where computational work is being done. So essentially it looks like office space, and there's some conference spaces. The idea of the neighborhood does sort of telegraph into that floor as well. And so we have these open areas that go through from one side of the building to the other. And then there's sort of a glass conference room floating in the center in order to allow for that sense of connection to the views and to the daylight through both sides of the building.
And do they so they're teaming up with the folks in the lab?
Yes.
Well, you're calling it a dry lab, right?
Yeah. So most research today, translational research that is medical in nature, because of DNA-based sort of focus. Most research now involves some sort of data analysis of sequencing the DNA of a virus or other things like that. And so sometimes we call it sort of a damp environment where you can be doing things on the lab bench, but you need to collaborate with someone who is mapping the DNA sequence of a certain organism. And so being able to have those folks under the same roof, whether they're on the same floor or on separate floors, does allow for the convenience of that collaboration to occur.
Well, we know it's a green building. So how green is it? And what does that mean?
Every project that I work on, every project at ZGF, whether the clients are interested in it or not, we try to push the levels of energy performance as high as we can. We try to push the health and the indoor air quality of projects as much as we can, the occupant health. Actually, on this neighborhood plan that the Lundquist Institute is based on, it flanks the internal sort of lab area with offices on both sides. And I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but labs have a code required number of air changes that need to go through. I think it's about 6 air changes. So what we did here is to provide air to the office environment, and I think it's 2 air changes, and that cascades into the office, into the lab. So excuse me, and so we're only providing the remainder of the air change requirement to that lab. So that plan is not only accommodating or setting up all of those relationships that I was alluding to earlier related to function and to creating a great environment that's with daylight. It also allows us to utilize the air through the building in a more energy efficient way. And this is really interesting because it makes the office environment and the lab environment single pass air, which in the age of COVID has become really important. So the air does not recirculate in any one location in that building.
No, it's fantastic. I love that. See, I didn't know that. That's amazing. All right, I want to get...
Actually, this building that's behind me here, which is the Anschutz Health Sciences building, which is under construction right now, just topped off in Colorado. This one is really sort of the next generation of what I call sort of mixed use medical school buildings, where you put all these different disciplines together. And in this case, we also are providing in this building offices for clinicians. So the folks that are actually providing healthcare are commingling in the same building, in the same environment with the computationalists, with the experimentalist, the folks that are in the wet lab as well. And then this ground floor that you see right behind me here are a series of classrooms and conferencing functions, so that act of collaboration and sharing of knowledge can be done in the same environment as well.
Yeah, no, I was just going to ask you, this is the one in Colorado, right?
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Now this is much bigger, correct?
Much bigger, yes. This one is nearly 400,000 square feet.
Oh my goodness. So where are you on that?
Yeah, so the building just topped off and the curtain wall started going on. The scale of this atrium environment is amazing. We thought about, with that idea of purpose in mind, not only day-to-day functions, but how this atrium could provide accommodation for programmed events and fundraisers and poster sessions. And so it was really envisioned as creating a new paradigm on that campus that had been zoned. So education is over here and research is over here and healthcare is over there. So putting those under one roof, again, the idea of breaking down or creating an anti-disciplinary environment. But also providing a magnet. So there's roof terraces on different levels that you can step out onto. There's a Krumholtz room on the very top. It's like right up here on this corner that you can, it's just a simple lounge, but the lounge steps out onto a green terrace that you'll have views across to Denver downtown and the mountains beyond. And on this ground floor here, you have a cafe, you have a restaurant. So it's really the idea of creating a hub. Mm-hmm. So we would like to see people that have no businesses in this building choose to cut through it, to get a coffee, or because it's a shorter distance to get to where they're going from the point that they arrived on the campus, in order to increase the chance that happenstance, connection can happen that could spark something incredible that would be impactful in the future.
Braulio, what's it been like for you over the years working on projects like this when, I don't know, right now it's touching home so strongly, but trying to help others who are trying to help all of us, right? What's that like?
It's like I said before, Cindy, it's why I look forward to getting up every morning out of bed and getting to work. I've always I've always liked design just from an aesthetic standpoint,
right?
Liking beautiful things, but through the work that I've been doing at ZGF and being fortunate to work with these mission-driven clients, I was able to connect the idea of beauty and inspiring people with the impact that can have on real concrete, needs that society has. And so that's incredibly satisfying. And I'm just really fortunate to be able to work on projects like this.
Right, and like you said, it's kind of changed your perspective and changed the trajectory of your career too, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. When you think of like how aesthetically it also changes how we feel about space for sure, but then what's behind some of this work is just unbelievable.
Yeah, I sometimes people call me the empathizer.
Oh, I love that.
Because even though I'm interested in big ideas, and I think good design is really about a powerful parti or something that is bold, I'd like to imagine myself as that user in the building and how I would feel.
Right.
And so it's sort of an understanding that I think that the sweet spot in architecture is being able to link that big idea to the experience that you're trying to craft, and really focusing on the impact on the lives of the people that will be carrying out their work, or just walking by, that built framework that you happen to design.
Right. So many amazing messages. The building is incredible in every which way, like you said, as an architect, as architecture, as interiors, for people, for these unbelievable researchers. Like, we're so appreciative. Braulio, amazing job. And
thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, helping others who are using design to create buildings and spaces for those who are right now trying to solve these global issues, honestly, is the ultimate reward. I really want to thank you. I'm sending you virtual hugs because that's the only.
Oh, thank you,
right?
Thank you.
Right?
And yeah, and it's such icing on the cake to be recognized for the quality of the work that you're doing, for that purpose. And so feeling like I have a small part of their mission is satisfying enough, but being recognized for that, it makes me feel really good too. So thank you so much, Cindy.
Oh, absolutely. Well, our message to everyone out there is to be healthy and be well, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
and we'll continue to think about how the built world can help us carry out life with meaning and life in a healthy state. So
exactly. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, and God bless everybody. Be healthy and safe and well.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. All
okay.
right.
Bye. Bye.